Mikey.
Hey, welcome to all the anglers across North America. We are here today to talk about not just the Midwest Walleye Challenge, but what's coming up this fall, the Fall Classic. And if you catch some walleye, you'll be contributing to citizen science as well as a chance to win some cash and prizes.
This never gets old, Mike. Like, especially when we talk about MyCatch and the resources that are provided to scientists, biologists, or anybody that's looking for these kind of creel samples. I know Sean is going to go into great detail on how it helped, but just sitting backstage, looking through some of the graphs, some of the stats, this really is remarkable what this app is doing and how it's helping.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize it. I know people sign up because they can win cash, they can win prizes. It's a good way to show off your fish. But in the back end, there's so much data collected that helps state agencies so that they can make informed decisions in terms of our fisheries.
That's awesome. And you know what, Mikey, we're getting ready. Lloyd's in flight right now. I'm waiting for him to land. I'm keeping an eye on my phone because we are heading to Camp McIntosh this weekend for the 3rd annual OFC Nation. And to all those who are watching that are going to be joining us, safe travels.
But today we're talking about walleye, and that is your favorite species, Scottie. So I'm going to bring up 2 guests from Anglers Atlas. Please give a warm welcome to Sean and Jim. How you doing, Sean? How you doing, Jim?
Good.
Jim, is that a walleye on your wall or a different fish?
No, unfortunately, that's a brown trout and rainbow trout. I'm still unpacking my mount, so there will be more up there.
So for those that don't know you, Sean, can you tell us who Simmons is and how are you involved in Anglers Atlas and MyCatch?
Yeah, thanks, Michael and Scottie. Great to see you again. Yeah, just a little bit of background for folks if they haven't heard me talk about how this all started. So a little bit of background on me. So I'm based in a place called Prince George, British Columbia. I'm what's called a limnologist. So I studied lakes. That's how I got into this. And when I was doing my research, I realized all this great data was out there, detailed maps, stocking data. And if you like fishing, it's a gold mine. So we started publishing free fishing maps in 1999. And we grew it out of our basically area in northern British Columbia across Canada now into parts of the US. And one of the cool things, we get about 1 million anglers a year. We started noticing that they like sharing information back. And that's really when the idea of how do we integrate the science and the challenges for fisheries science with the anglers who are out there on the land or on the water already. And so we launched MyCatch in 2017 or 2018. And just as a simple creel app, where did I fish, when did I fish, how long, what did I catch, including the zeros, to see can we even get data that's close to what biologists use, official creel surveys. And sure enough, we were able to get pretty good data. And then when COVID hit and I started working with Jim, who you'll talk to in a bit, we started thinking, well, what if we adapt this so we can run catch photo release tournaments? Now, not all tournaments are released, but the idea is use the app to collect that data and give people a reason to participate for fun cash prizes. And so from there, we've been able to evolve the platform to run all sorts of really interesting citizen science projects as events. And what we do is we pair the scientific experimental design with the rules to pair that stuff. I won't get into the details of that, but that's basically how we link the science and the fun event together. And so I was presenting what we were doing a couple of years ago at the American Fisheries Society, and that's where I met Jeff Kopaska out of Iowa. And we really started having some in-depth discussions about the challenges that Iowa faces. I think they stock about 150 million walleye every year. A huge resource, not just in terms of staff time, but in terms of actual money that they put into the stocking. And the challenge that they face is they don't really know how the fish are doing after they're released. They'll do a couple of creel surveys, but other than that, they're just guessing at what's happening to all the walleye, how are they growing, where the pressure is. And so the idea of being able to leverage the anglers who are out there on the land or on the water already and have them basically lead the charge in helping better understand the state of the fishery. That's where we started the Iowa Walleye Challenge 2022, and we did it 2023. And then this year, we were able to expand it to 12 states and 2 provinces to see, does this even scale? And sure enough, we got some pretty good results. I'll show you some more information later, but I'll pass it back to Scottie and Michael.
Man, I want to see those results. But before we get to you, Jim, let people know who you are.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike and Scottie. I'm the tournament director for MyCatch and Anglers Atlas. I basically look after setting up the events and getting them up and running and making contacts for new events. I am the angler on the team. I'm not a scientist. Sean often says I'm good at fishing. He sucks at fishing, but we'll get him to come around eventually. But on top of that, I am a tournament walleye angler. I fish quite a few events every year, so I've got the angler's perspective presented in every event.
All right.
So with traditional events, Jim, there's obviously a new, I would say, a new challenge that is being faced to a lot of tournament organizers. Of course, we talk about forward-facing sonar to death, but sheer cost is going up to a point where people they're being picky on what events they're going to participate in. Are there any challenges running a MyCatch based event? Do you face any challenges?
You know what? There's always challenges in everything you do, right? It's just at what level they are. I think the biggest thing for us is getting the word out to enough anglers and having those anglers leverage other anglers to sign up for events. The other thing that's facing the industry, you take a look at Manitoba. You're not allowed to bring in fish over a certain size anymore. So they're basically forcing the tournament industry or the derby industry in Manitoba to go to a catch photo release. They're mandating it. And over the last 3-4 years, I've got a database like you would believe of every tournament and derby across North America. And you can see as time goes by, more and more and more of them are going to what we call the CPR, the catch photo release format of events. You catch fish, you take a photo of it, you let the fish go right away, and then you enter the photo for length. It's better for the fish overall. They're not sitting in a live well, plus 30, 32 degrees Celsius, bouncing in a live well if it's windy. You don't catch it at 6 o'clock in the morning and have to weigh it in at 3 o'clock. We've all been there. We've opened that live well lid, and all you're seeing is bellies. That's not good for the fishery. So
100%. And
it's coming. It's the way of the future.
I was going to add to that because I do believe, like you do, that it is the future, and we see it because most tournament trails are starting to lose numbers. They're losing traction. They're not growing. What division is growing and exponentially is the kayak industry, and we are seeing so many startup kayak tournaments, and their premise is exactly as you just mentioned. It is catch, photo, and release. So there seems to be a trend going towards these kind of tournaments. So that's awesome. Thanks for that, Jim.
You bet.
So any anglers out there looking for tournaments to join, definitely go to the Anglers Atlas website, and you could see a whole bunch of things that you could join, including the Walleye Challenge, the Fall Classic that we're talking about here. So let's go to the scientists. What are some of the results that you saw from the Midwest Walleye Challenge that we had this summer?
All right, let me present the screen and make sure I can set this up properly. And what I'll do is I'll share with you the results. And so this is what the agencies see. Again, I should emphasize, secret spots stay secret. So it's really important to protect the privacy of the anglers. So what we do is before any of the data is released, we generalize it to a water body level. So we can identify the lake, but we'll never reveal the exact location on that lake. Second, we also anonymize the data so they don't know when they're looking at the data who's fishing what. And those are two important things we do to protect the privacy of the angler while still making the data useful for the agency. And that seems to be an acceptable balance. But essentially what you're seeing here is the Midwest Walleye Challenge results. Every single one of the dots here is a water body, either a lake or a river or a reservoir. And certainly because Iowa has been going the last 3 years, and I'll drill in there, that's where we got pretty good coverage. I think we got over 100 water bodies surveyed in 2024. You can see where the anglers cluster. Certainly Des Moines is the big center in Iowa, so people generally fish closest to Des Moines. We had a total of 3,098 trips reported. And one of the cool things that we're able to do through the app is collect 0 trips. And we incentivize that through tough luck prizes. So if you use the app, you start the trip, you go out, you don't catch anything, you end the trip, you qualify for prizes. And this allows us to get data where the fisheries just aren't performing well. And so it's a really important piece of data. And that's why we include it here. Also,
Scottie would win that 0 trip prize. He's used to that.
I win that prize. The next item is the total fish caught. So this is where you can start to see where the fisheries are productive, as well as where the anglers are applying pressure. Certainly near Des Moines, Big Creek Lake, up here, Des Moines River. Well, that's the sort of center spot of the Des Moines River, and you can see there's 331 fish caught. We also have hours out, and we've got a catch rate that we calculate. So all this information is really valuable from the fisheries perspective to get a sense of how the fishery is performing. Now, what happens is after you submit a catch, basically it comes through and we check it to make sure the length measurement is correct. Then what we do is have this histogram. And what this does is shows us the length distribution of the fish that are coming in. And right now you're seeing the length distribution for all fish across the entire event. I'll dive into it in a second, what one specific water body looks like, because this is just an amalgamation of everything right now. One of the cool things we've added this year is they're called rose plots. And actually it was a biologist out of Indiana that was doing them up. And I thought they were really interesting ways to illustrate sort of when the hours are that anglers are fishing, when they're catching, and then the catch rate. This is skewed. These ones up here are skewed because the sample size is super small, but these are the ones have a large sample size. So those are fairly decent, accurate representations of rates. Now, if we dive into one of these water bodies here, let's look at, where was it?
Zoom out for Rathburn.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, here, Big Creek. Here, we'll jump into Big Creek. This is probably one of the most popular water bodies around Des Moines. It's just north of Des Moines. I don't know, maybe half an hour, I'm guessing. And you can see we had 29 anglers, 169 trips, 55 zeros, 331 fish caught, 618 hours, and a catch rate of 0.53. Now, the interesting thing is here's where you start to see the population really come out. So because they so heavily stock this lake, you can see that young age class that they added in last spring, a year ago. And this is basically that young age class there. And then this is the main age class, and it goes up to, I mean, there are catches coming in. There's 2 catches over 29 inches. So basically there's catch number 1 and catch number 2 right there. And so this is the information that is really helpful from the fisheries biologist perspective, because for them to go out and collect this, they'd either have to do a lot of creel surveys. So that basically gets people out on the boat ramps and on the water, interviewing anglers. That's very expensive. They have to do netting surveys, again, very expensive, or electrofishing. So they're all very expensive methods to get this information. And the problem is they just don't have the budgets. So this is one way where the anglers can solve this problem for them, and by providing data from across the whole state through a single event. And that's what we want to do for this Fall Walleye Classic. Let's see if I can stop the sharing. And one thing I'll end on is just by emphasizing, we need anglers to report every single one of their catches. We used to have a most fish category. We changed that to a random draw. But the idea is every time you catch a fish, measure and submit it, you get entered for the random draw. And the reason this is important is because it helps us get a better sense of the full length distribution of fish, rather than just putting the biggest ones in, where we miss the small ones. That's going to skew how we interpret the state of that fishery. So we want to make sure anglers are reporting all the fish they catch so we get a fair representation.
Are there any struggles at all, Sean, when it comes to the science and regs? Because up here we have slot limits. I'm not sure exactly how you guys manage your fish down that way, but with a slot limit size fish, is it frowned upon? Is it illegal? Are there any issues when it comes to following regs when you run these tournaments with the catch, photo, and release?
Yeah, I guess the first thing we always emphasize is always fish according to the regulations. We don't want people breaking the rules. That's definitely a no-no. We don't police this. This is not our job to police it, but we always emphasize it whenever possible. follow the regs as they apply in your jurisdiction. In every jurisdiction, we've got 12 states, 2 provinces. There's specific regulations there. So make sure you're following the regulations. In terms of the slot size, because these are intended to be catch, photo, release, you don't have to. If it's legitimate to harvest your fish in your area, we have no problem with that. We just like to encourage the release wherever possible. Certainly, if it's outside a slot limit, definitely release the fish back into the water. That's a must. So,
but no restrictions in regards to taking a picture, measuring it and adding it to your album or your library of fish that you've caught. There's no issues with that.
Not that I'm aware, but I'm not a conservation officer, so I'll defer to the people that actually enforce the rules, but not that I'm aware of.
Good. Right on.
Well, I have a comment here from Grayson. He said he won a tough luck prize in the spring, and it was great to get something even though he got skunked. I know you presented this information at the AFS conference in Honolulu. How did that go?
Yeah, so for folks that don't know, AFS stands for the American Fisheries Society. It's the largest fisheries science organization in the world. Fascinating. It's been around over 150 years, over 7,000 members. At the conference in Hawaii we were just at, 2,200 fisheries scientists were there, and we had several dedicated symposia. The whole theme of the conference was knowledge co-production. We did another cool event in Hawaii doing invasive species. So the idea was how non-scientists can really play a meaningful role in fisheries management. And that's certainly one of my missions within the American Fisheries Society, is find a home where anglers feel comfortable to be part of the scientific endeavor. And so we had some great presentations. I gave a talk on the difference between participation where states were actively involved promoting the event and states where they were just passive. We just did Facebook marketing. Clearly, when a state's on board, the participation rates go way up. I think it was by a factor of 6. And Jeff Kopaska, who is unfortunately is not able to make it on the call tonight, but he's got a new job. He was the biometrician in Iowa. He is now the executive director of the American Fisheries Society. So he's drinking from a fire hose, or as he says, 7 fire hoses right now. I think he's at the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies meeting this week, just getting up to speed. But we had quite a lively discussion, and after we presented, we had a lot of feedback, a lot of Q&A on sort of the value that this provides to the agencies. We had folks from South Carolina, folks from Hawaii, NOAA Fisheries were there. I think their Gulf States folks were there, a bunch of other not Midwest, I think sort of eastern states. Quite a few state representatives and biologists had quite an in-depth discussion. In fact, had a great conversation with a fellow from Colorado who wants to test out this method in Colorado. I don't know the walleye fisheries there. I think it's mostly rainbows.
There's a few systems that have walleye in it, but it's intriguing because this really is just a springboard to what is possibly going to happen in the future when it comes to citizen science. And truly, as I said, when Mike presented this whole concept to me in regards to what MyCatch and the Anglers Atlas were doing to move forward with this app, I jumped on board in a big way, because I've been a big proponent that we are losing the opportunity to do great creel samples and understanding our fisheries and how to manage them, from simple things like tournaments, simple things like derbies. It tells you a lot about your fishery, and I hate to see good information go to waste. So, again, good on you, Anglers Atlas, and for coming up with the MyCatch app, because it truly ticks a lot of the boxes I've been wanting to tick for a number of years.
Well, and I'll add that it's a really important opportunity for anglers to play a part in the management as well. Yeah. So that I know I've talked to anglers where they say, look, I know all this stuff. I want to be able to share this so you can better manage the fishery. Here's one of the avenues that we're able to do this. And really, we're just one avenue that this happens. The idea that citizen science can take all different shapes and forms, I think that's where the American Fisheries Society can play a role. If we can establish a really strong home for anglers that want to be part of this, and a place for them to interact, to present, to co-present, to work on projects together, really need opportunity to really bridge that gap between the anglers and the management agencies.
Cool. When it comes, sorry, Mike, when it comes to endorsements, Sean, like who right now from any agency is endorsing the MyCatch app? Is there anybody out there really pushing and pumping your tires?
Well, in the Midwest Walleye Challenge, we had 5 agencies active on it this year. So we had Iowa, Indiana, Nebraska, Illinois, Michigan came on. And for next year, it looks like Missouri and South Dakota are interested in participating as well at that stepped up level. On the West Coast, certainly we're doing some really interesting, they're called mark recapture studies. But you know, when you mark a fish, you put a tag in it, you release it, you recapture it. It's an old method. It's been around for about 100 years. We're applying a modified version where when you report the fish on the app, that's a mark. When a creel survey clerk interviews an angler, they add one extra question to their creel questions. They say, did you report this on the app? There's a recapture. We can apply an entirely that mark recapture method to estimate total harvest, total discard. So it's a whole new way of thinking about applying this methodology of the app-based and the creel surveys together to get to answers that otherwise would be almost impossible rather than spending huge amounts of money on. So some really cool stuff there. And it was fun, the Hawaii event. The first time we worked with Hawaii, a bunch of folks from the Hawaii state, some NOAA fisheries folks were on board for that, some of the local anglers, the NGOs, and it was all about getting the invasives out. And it was fun because it was a divisional tournament. So we had Kauai, which is one of the islands, Maui, Oahu, and Big Island competing to see which island would basically outfish the invasives, and Kauai took it away. And Oahu and Big Island were neck and neck. In the end, Oahu took it up, and Maui, well, we got some work to do with Maui. So,
Hilarious.
All right. So if this sounds amazing and interesting, and you want to either win prizes or contribute to citizen science, the next event coming up is the Midwest Fall Walleye Classic, and I see Jim. I don't know if you guys see that, but it looks like Jim's Wi-Fi is cutting out. But Sean, while Jim's Wi-Fi is coming back in, when does the Fall Walleye Classic start, and how can people sign up?
Yeah, the Fall Walleye Classic kicks off on the 28th, which is, I believe, Saturday, and runs for the entire month of October. So ends on October 31st. Discount Tackle has stepped up again as a title sponsor and basically helping promote all sorts of, well, if you're new to the event, meaning you haven't fished the Midwest Walleye Challenge before, the first 100 or 200 anglers that report a fish automatically get a $20 gift card. They're also doing a $100 gift card for the largest walleye across all states and the 2 provinces. And I think we've got 2 categories. We've got a category for paid, so there'll be cash payouts on that one. And then we've got a free entry where you can basically compete for the Discount Tackle awards as well.
Jim is back. We were just talking about when the tournament starts and the 2 types of tournaments that you can get involved with, Jim. But I know there's a whole list of rules on the website that every single angler should read. But what's some of the most important things anglers need to know as they're preparing to compete in the Midwest Walleye Challenge and the Fall Walleye Classic?
For all events, you know, I just can't stress, read the rules, right? Read the rules. And Sean covered the one that I was going to cover. The first part was the paid entry fee versus the free entry fee. So yeah, the free entry fee just entitles participants for non-cash prizing and some gift cards. The $25 entry fee allows people to actually participate for the cash awards. Other than that, you know, again, read the event. Ones that I wanted to touch on for sure in this forum is just to remember to enter the fish at the fishing site or as soon as possible after catching the fish. It actually goes for the data. It's more clean data if it's right at the fishing site. Another one is all fish should be measured on the right side down. It just helps us to keep everything consistent in the app and for identification and everything else. The mouth, this is one that comes up in different events, mouth closed, mouth open, and stuff like that. We do allow the fish's mouth to be open, closed, or anywhere in between. So as long as the upper and or the lower jaw of the head is actually touching the end of the bump board or at the 0 mark on the measuring device. That's a key one to make sure that all fish are actually being measured properly. Then there's a couple about, you know, the different types of measuring boards. We allow a commercially produced bump board. We allow homemade bump boards, tape measures. The nose of the fish must be up against the bump. It must be placed on top of the board. And this is a commercially made bump board. The entire fish you got to include the head and past the head, and the tail and past the tail that we can see it. We always get some photos. People are taking them too close. We get some that are cut off. We just can't verify those fish. So make sure you have everything there. The only one that we have troubles with is the expandable bump boards. I'm not going to name any manufacturers, but if it's a sliding expandable, we don't allow that if the fish is longer than the expandable point, and it's basically 19 inches. So if your fish is bigger than that and you're using that expandable board, it won't count. Homemade bump boards, basically all the same, but you really need to read the rule under section 3MB, where it says you need to send a photo of your empty bump board to verify the proof of measurement, which includes a measuring tape alongside the bump board for that verification process. The photo must be sent to our assurance, quality and assurance team, and it's just events@anglersatlas.com. They'll keep it on file for the event, and then your fish can be approved. If we don't have that picture verifying that board, your fish will be sitting in a pending state and will not be approved until we get that. The last category is the tape measure. Basically all the same as the rest. The fish has to be lined with the fish, and the tape measure have to be aligned against something solid. You know, we see nice pieces of 2x4s or, you know, hard edges inside a boat, you know, the step up platforms and stuff, and just lay them out and butt them up against each other. But the tape measure can't be covered in any way in those photos. The other thing, no fabric tape. It's just like a lot of the teams. We do not allow the fabric tape to be stretched up and over the belly and the side of the fish, and we don't allow that. That's basically covering off them. If any of the rules aren't followed, it still may be approved, but there might be a length penalty attributed. Depending on what the exact issues are, it may also be rejected, but we try to use the penalty option first before we actually reject any fish. The only other thing I really wanted to cover off was payments of prizes at the end. We learned from the first one. It was our first one dealing with a lot of payments out, you know, in the South and in the States. We will be doing all the payouts for this event. Cash prizes will be done through e-transfer for the Canadian participants and PayPal through the US participants, or an Amazon e-gift card. And that can be a Bass Pro gift card from Amazon or just an Amazon gift card. I'll be reaching out to all the winners by email after the event, letting them know and asking for them to confirm what choice they want. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell that I wanted to cover off. Sean, did you have any to add to that, or?
Yeah, one thing. I know our biggest challenge is always making sure we've got as many anglers participating as possible. And so we've added in a new feature this year called Refer a Friend, and there'll be 5 $100 prizes we give out for referrals. And so the more people you get referred, the greater your chances of winning one of those 5 $100 prizes. And the way you do that on the website, you can go and there's a link at the top that says Refer a Friend. I think that's just been, actually, let me just quickly check. I think that's just been added today. Oh, I can't check right now. Anyways, that should be on the website. Also in the email that I sent out to any of the former participants, there's a link in there, and you copy that and you can send that to your friends through email, or you post it on your social media page. Anyone that clicks that link and then signs up for the event and then submits a fish will qualify for you for that extra draw.
I guess for anybody that's not familiar with the Midwest Walleye Challenge, maybe go over some of the boundaries. Who can enter, who can't enter, because we do have a question up there in regards to folks in Ontario possibly participating.
Yeah, let me just do a quick present screen again, and I'll just show you the boundaries that way. Here we go. So this is the page where you sign up and you register an event. Once you register for the event, then there'll be up here the Refer a Friend link, and that's where you can basically qualify for additional prizes. The boundary is right here. We did get a lot of feedback that folks really wanted to fish the Great Lakes. Our partners at the state agencies, they're interested in their interior lakes, so we excluded the Great Lakes, and that continues for the fall. However, next year, what I'm thinking is we may create just a separate category, because, I mean, once you're fishing Lake Erie for walleye, it puts everyone else at a big disadvantage. But we're thinking if we can provide just a Great Lakes event next year for walleye, that might be a nice way to get around that. But essentially, there's the 12 states. So you got Ohio, Michigan, Indianapolis, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then the Michigan portion here, and then both Manitoba as well as Ontario. And so that is the extent of the boundaries for that.
And I will add, some of the flow through rivers and lakes are excluded from the flow through from the Great Lakes.
Oh yeah, so that'd be Lake St. Clair, Detroit, and St. Clair rivers.
Yeah,
no, makes sense.
We got a question here from Curtis, who participated in the summer event. So Sean, are there any differences between the Midwest Walleye Challenge and the Fall Walleye Classic? Because Curtis's question is here: how many have signed up for the fall tournament? Because he noticed there wasn't that many people signed up in Ohio.
Yeah, and that was a challenge for Ohio. Ohio was one of the states where the agency just took a passive role. They supported it, but they didn't actively promote it. So we didn't have a lot of participation from Ohio, which is good, Curtis. It gives you a chance to makes it a lot easier to win that $100 gift card from Discount Tackle for sure. I guess in terms of the Ohio participation, we did actually have a conversation with one of the Ohio biologists at the AFS conference in Honolulu just last week, and maybe we'll see some interest on their end helping promote that to try and get a greater participation. But as it stands now, I don't quite know I haven't actually looked at the number of participants from Ohio, so it could be very good for you to win that $100 prize.
That's cool. Richard has a question in regards to live scope. Beautiful thing about this tournament and the way it runs, Richard, it's not an issue. This is a catch, photo, and release tournament. So if you are using live scope or any other electronics, you're more than welcome to do so. The way that these participants have to, as you said, submit their catches and then release them, live scope really has no basis or bearing on these kind of tournaments.
We are aware that it is becoming an issue in some areas, like the one big trail in the States just came up with an announcement that they were not going to allow any live scope usage pre-fishing or during the event. I'm actually working with a group right now that wants to have a walleye event without any forward-facing sonar in it. So it's another thing that's coming up on the horizon that people are looking at.
Mm-hmm. If anyone has any questions because you're thinking of participating in the Fall Walleye Classic, or you're already signed up and you had any questions about the rules that you've been reading, it's your chance to ask those questions now and put it in the chat box, and we'll make sure Sean and Jim answer your questions. We do have a question here from Grayson. He's in Ontario, and he wants to know some of the retail partners that are sponsoring the tournament and what are some of the prizes that people can win.
Yeah, so there's really two categories, and we're remiss at this. We were kind of late off the mark getting the Fall Walleye Classic set up. The spring event was really quite busy for us, so we were a little bit late on the fall event. Discount Tackle is our premier sponsor, plus the cash prizes. So if you're entering in and you enter the cash category where you have an entry fee, that'll be a cash payout either as e-transfer in Canada or Amazon gift card
or PayPal.
True.
Okay. Any last questions, Scottie?
I guess the glaring question is when it comes to your winners, what state, what province are they primarily coming from? Where are we seeing the biggest fish caught?
That's a good question, and I knew that answer, but I've forgotten it.
Well, I know that answer.
Oh, you know that answer? Okay, good.
The biggest walleye overall was caught actually in Ontario for the last event. But like Sean said when he covered off the prizes, we award the biggest or longest walleye entered in each jurisdiction. So there will be 14 different prizes for the longest walleye in each state or province. We don't give one award for the longest one overall. All those grand prizes were random draws. So it took that part out. There were some very large fish caught in Nebraska, in Iowa, in Manitoba, in Ontario. There was all jurisdictions had, quite a few fish and several over the 30-inch mark. That's that.
Wow.
Well, the magic number for walleye is always 28 inches, right? That we've always fished as tournament anglers, and there was a lot over the 30-inch mark.
Yeah, I should add that for this event in the fall, we're not dividing it up into the individual states. We just didn't have time to pull all that stuff together. So there will be a discount tackle prize on a state-by-state basis. But in this event, everybody's competing against everybody else. So
Very cool. Wow.
That means whoever asked that question, Grayson, who's in Ohio, he's competing against everyone else in that boundary.
And Ohio. They had some big fish too.
Yeah.
And we should add that there's other categories. So most water bodies fished. And again, this is the way we structure our prize categories. It's to align with what we're trying to achieve from a scientific perspective. So it's not just the biggest fish. Random draws. So every fish you enter will increase your chances of success, as well as most water bodies fish. So if you can hop to as many water bodies fished as possible, and even if you don't catch anything there, that still counts. So long as you're on a water body, I think it's for at least an hour. And so that's another way you can win. So even if you may not get the longest, there's a bunch of other ways you can win the prizes.
We have a question here from Alan. He lives in Colorado, but can he fish in Nebraska and participate in the tournament?
100%.
Awesome. And then Mike is asking, what are the lakes that are off limits, and are they listed anywhere?
Yeah, I guess as we mentioned earlier, the Great Lakes are off limits. So Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, Ontario, plus the two rivers, Detroit River, St. Clair River, and Lake St. Clair. I would like to get them in for next year, but we're just not including them for this year.
And actually, there's a few more on there. So under Section 4, event locations and times, under 4A, the St. Lawrence River, the Niagara River, the Detroit River, Lake St. Clair, the St. Clair River, the St. Mary's River, and water bodies between Lake Superior and Lake Huron, the Fox River, just to name a few, are not part of the event. And of course, the Great Lakes themselves.
Well, I
had a request after the first
make
event,
sure to
so I
read
added
the
them
rules,
in.
everyone.
Yeah, make sure you read the rules. But I look forward to seeing next year's event when it does include the Great Lakes, because this guy here, Colin, catches some pretty big walleye out of the Bay of Quinte. So for those who know the Bay of Quinte, know that it is a trophy case that is awaiting all anglers, and there are some behemoth walleye swimming in that body of water.
I'm looking forward to seeing those fish entered next year.
Yeah.
There's a question here for you, Jim. Curtis is wondering if you remember the monster walleye that he caught in Ohio.
Yep. Like I said, there were some big fish caught in every state and province.
Wow.
That's what, again, the whole intent was not to just award the biggest overall. We did the biggest one in each state and province, and we're doing that again for this.
So I got a question for all of you. We'll go around the block. Scottie, biggest walleye you ever caught?
33.5 inches.
Ooh, damn. Jim, you beat that?
No, my biggest is 32.5 inches in a tournament.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mine wasn't a tournament. So good for you. You got a leg up on me.
Sean?
Yeah, well, I'm out in BC country. I think the only walleye we've got is either in Castlegar or up in the Peace. So I haven't caught a walleye since I was maybe not a teenager, but many years ago. So I can't even remember what it was.
And Mike, I know what yours is. It was that 21.5 inch at Horwood, was it not?
It's a little bit bigger than that. I haven't reached a 30-inch club, but a 29 is my biggest.
Right on. I had to ask the question too, Sean. Of course, where you live logistically, what made you think of having a walleye challenge, considering there are no walleye where you live?
Yeah, it was Jeff Kopaska. He said, "We've got a management challenge. We're stocking all these walleye. Got no way of understanding what's happening." So that was the impetus. It was really driven by the need from the management side, and that's why we start there and then go to the anglers.
It would really be cool, Jim. Yeah, it would be really cool to see the support from your DNR, from your ministries, from your biologists. And I know that's coming. The further you take this, the more science you're able to share, and just the importance of an app like this when it comes to fisheries managers. The future must be bright. I can't think of a bad thing to say about anything that you guys are doing, because it really is something that needs to be done and should have been done a long time ago. So again, kudos to you, and hopefully we get that kind of support in the future for you, because once you do, the anglers will come.
Mm-hmm. And if there's any anglers out there, Jim, that are either part of a fishing club or want to run their own community event, or maybe they work for a state agency, what's the best way to reach you, Jim, if they want to use a MyCatch app?
Sure, there's a couple of ways. They can just sign up on the website, anglersatlas.com. There is a tab there to request an event if they want to hold an event. That comes directly to Sean and I get a hold of them usually within a day or two response time. And, we start the discussion. What are you looking at? What do you need? And we can usually come to setting up an event very easily. Everything from a free event, private closed events, to full on cross Canada, cross North America events. Or they can simply reach me by jim.clark@anglersatlas.com.
All right. Speaking about events, Curtis is saying he knows that the tournament starts on the 28th, but does everyone have the same start time? And if there is, what is it?
Sean?
I'll have to quickly check what the rules say. It starts at 6 a.m. Central Time and runs to Thursday, October 31st at 6 p.m. Central Time. And all catches need to be synced by the close date. We had somebody sync a catch 21 seconds after, and it was just painful because it was a really nice fish, but we can't accept it.
So regardless of where you're fishing and where you live, it's the same start time and end time.
Correct.
Okay. Just before we close off, gentlemen, I'm going to ask each of you just for some closing thoughts. But Tad here, I'm not sure where he's from, but his message is, I appreciate you guys putting this out there for all of us to enjoy. Thanks, Tad. Jim, any last comments about people either thinking of joining the Fall Walleye Classic or have already joined?
Just the fact of have fun, enter all your fish, tell your buddies. This is not a case of if I tell less people, I'll win more money. This is all about providing data for the fisheries and getting the information back so that the fishery can either be improved by stocking more fish or, whatever method. If they see a lake is being utilized heavily and they aren't stocking it as much, they might say, okay, we need to increase the stocking for that lake, right? To satisfy the anglers. It's angler-driven data driving the managers to better manage the fishery for the anglers. This is not a case of they're trying to control the anglers. They're not restricting. They need the information. And as an angler, I've always been looking for an avenue to provide data, useful data, to the government that they'll actually use. Not just a piece of paper and it goes in file G that I often hear it goes to, right? So that's my takeaway. Enter, have your friends enter. And have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Jim. Well said. Sean?
Yeah, I just want a big thanks to all the anglers participating, because it's really the anglers that are making this thing work. And so certainly the appreciation from our end on that is sincere. And just final notes, the refer a friend. Please refer as many friends as you can for a chance to win one of 5 $100 gift cards. So please try that new feature we've just added.
Amazing. And I know, Scottie, your favorite fish is walleye, to the point that if you ever see Scottie Martin driving in his truck, his license plate says Walleye 4. So this must make you smile, Scottie, that all this is in hopes of bettering the walleye fishery.
100%. At the end of the day, to sum it up quickly, obviously you had me at walleye, but when you talk about the science, you talk about, the amount of management that goes into walleye. It is one of the most popular fish. Some would argue that it is the most popular fish, but because it's so popular, we have to get better at managing it. The folks down south, to your credit, Americans have done a fantastic job managing the fish. Up here on our side, we rely more on Mother Nature, but that doesn't mean that we don't need the information to assist us. And, again, like when you have certain stipulations where, no longer are you able to target large fish, there's a reason for that. Maybe we can open up to suggest that, apps like this can still provide you that information without having to really necessarily keep the fish. You know what I'm saying? Like, as if you're out there on the water, you guys are doing your due diligence and making sure that the health of the fish is at the utmost, and you're releasing it. To get a little bit of science on top of that, I don't see anything wrong with that. And again, I can't say enough about what you guys are doing with this app and this program. It means a lot. I love it.
Thank you, gentlemen. So for those of you still thinking about it, make sure to go to the website. It's posted below, anglersatlas.com/events. Sign up for the Fall Walleye Classic. Be part of citizen science. Make your fish count towards improving our fisheries, and at the same time, win some cash and prizes. So on behalf of the team, Jim, Sean, and Scottie, go catch some fish. Take a kid out fishing and make sure to have fun all at the same time. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Peace.